The basic concepts: ethics, moral standards, moral dilemmas, human freedom. Moral standards. Moral standards are values used by a society to decide what is reasonable, correct, and acceptable. Some standards are widely recognized, such as the belief that killing is unacceptable in most communities. Others establish an exception for killing in defense of the country or in self defense. The moral norms for raising children, such as providing a safe environment and an education, are generally agreed upon. Other moral norms, such as how to raise children responsibly, are more open to individual interpretation. Many parents may disagree on how to discipline their children on moral grounds. Moral dilemmas refer to a circumstance in which a person must make a decision yet is faced with competing options. In an ideal world, the decisions they make will be a conundrum because every viable alternative may be incorrect. This leads to a moral or ethical quandary. Moral dilemmas are significant because they allow people to question their moral standing and who they are in terms of the decisions they make when faced with competing options or situations. Three levels of moral dilemma: personal moral dilemma, organizational dilemma, structural moral dilemma. Human freedom. Human freedom is a social concept that allows every individual to do what they want to do. It is our right to choose what or not to do according to our own preferences and rational decisions. Ethic refers to the behavior of individuals and moral responsibilities. Moral standards and moral dilemmas has its advantages and disadvantages depending on the beliefs and theology of the society. Nevertheless, we should consider and accept the fact that people has its decisions and choices to make. Norms can be a choice. Either you continue to practice or make your own beliefs. Therefore, everything is optional and making decisions is still depending on to you, like raising children or making your life better. Culture. Every human being is a prospective member on his own social group according to culture as cultivation. He has some natural abilities that he can put to good use. He cannot, however, develop these natural abilities without the help of others. He or she requires the assistance of others who can give him or her with necessary opportunities so that these potentialities might be realized as achievements. These achievements not only assist him in achieving self actualization, but also enable him to contribute to society. Cultural relativism: the ability to appreciate a culture in its own terms rather than making judgment based on one's own cultural standard is known as cultural relativism. The idea is to increase awareness of cultural traditions that aren't normally found in one's own culture. When considering morality, law, politics, and other systems, using the perspective of cultural relativism leads to the conclusion that no culture is superior to another. Advantages of cultural relativism. Disadvantages of cultural relativism. Filipino values: a collective term for the shared assumptions and beliefs of Filipinos, which are the basis of their response to facts, events, and situations. Filipino values serves as Filipinos' lenses on how they see things around them. Some examples of Filipino values: paggalang, pakikisama, pagpapahalaga sa pamilya, compassionate, fun-loving trait. Universal values. If it has the same value or worth for all, it applies across the world, across country, culture, and religion. The claim for universal values can be understood in two different ways. First, it could be that something has a universal value when everybody finds it valuable. Second, something could have universal value when all people have the reason to believe it has a value. Moral character. Moral character can be thought of as individuals' proclivity to think, feel, and act ethically versus unethically, or as a subset of individual variation related to morality. Development of moral character. One's activities shape one's moral character. A person with good character's habits, actions, and moral responses are all unified and guided toward the moral and good. Moral development refers to changes in moral beliefs as a person grows older and gains maturity. Culture has its diverse colors and respectively meaning. Culture defines our origin. It shows respect and deep understanding that even other people having a hard to decipher it. As Filipinos, we use our core values to promote our culture within or outside our country. It defines who and what we are as humans. It also develops good camaraderie to other people, appreciating our great aspects and perspectives in life. Regardless the disadvantages, we still manage to focus on the bright side of our culture. Emotion or feelings. Most ethical decisions are based on emotions or feelings and intuitions. The majority of people are unaware of how strongly their emotions influence their moral decisions. Experts, however, believe that making major moral decisions without emotion is impossible. Reasons and impartiality. Morality is defined as the combination of reasons and impartiality. Moral truths are rational truths. A moral judgment is true if it is supported by more compelling grounds than the alternatives. Genuine value judgment should be supported by compelling arguments. Moral judgments must be unbiased. If required, personal feelings or desires should be suppressed. 7 step of model of moral reasoning. Interpreting the situation, applying your values, and evaluating the implication of your action are all required for ethical decision making. Our issues in life do not always revolve on right and wrong, good or terrible. Choosing between good and better or terrible and worse is frequently the case. Moral courage is the bravery to act on your moral values even when you are unsure, fearful, or face negative repercussions. Moral courage requires thoughtful consideration and self mastery. Integrity is crucial to self esteem. Therefore, moral courage is required not only for a virtuous but also a joyful existence. Moral imagination. Ability in particular circumstances to discover and evaluate possibilities not merely determined by the circumstance, or limited by its operative mental mode, or merely framed by a set of rules or rule governs concerns. According to Waring, 1999. Although it is a necessary component, moral imagination is not sufficient alone for moral decision making. Moral reasoning is still needed. The more we get emotional, the more we become fearless. Emotion are feelings, though sometimes it contradicts our decisions because we sometimes choose our feeling rather than our thoughts. Courage is part of attitude that deals with both positive and negative. Everything has its own limits, you just need to control it. We need to be aware of your decisions. Make sure to choose first before we decide because regrets will always be at the end and not in the beginning. Virtue ethics. The pursuit of understanding and living a moral life is known as virtue ethics. This morality, based on character, assumes that we learn virtue via practice. A person develops honorable and moral character through practicing being honest, brave, just, generous, and so forth. When presented with ethical dilemmas, persons who have developed virtuous habits are more likely to make right decisions, according to Aristotle. Natural law ethics is an ethical and philosophical framework that claims humans have inherent values that guide their reasonings and actions. These rules of right and wrong, according to natural law, are inherent in humans and not manufactured by society or judges. Deontological ethics. The word deontology comes from the Greek word deon, which means being necessary. Deontology simply refers to the study of duty and obligation. In other words, deontological ethics as a moral theory is a non-consequentialist approach wherein it evaluates the intrinsic nature of an act based on duty and also with the validity of the motive of an act. Utilitarian ethics is a consequentialist theory which measures the morality of an action based on the consequences and not on the motive or intention of the moral agent. This is simply a critique to deontological ethics, which only looks into the intrinsic nature and intention of the action. For the utilitarian thinkers, it is great important to consider the outcomes of the action and mere intentions are irrelevant. Everything can be practicable. It is like differentiating abilities and skills. Obligation is optional, but our duty is mandated since the day you were born. Awareness is the epitome of success. What is happening surrounds you has a huge impact to your life. To be fair, you need to be bolder and curious with everything.